All right, well, welcome everybody. Like I said, this is the finale session of Spring into Wellbeing Week, a partnership between the Association of Midwest Museums and Mid-Atlantic Association of Museums, and also in a collaboration with Hub International. I can't believe it's the end of the day Friday, and we're wrapping up our week with creativity in the new normal, but we're very excited that many of you have been on this journey with us all week. And for those of you who are new and this is your first session of the week, we hope that you enjoy it. Our focus has been on mindfulness and self-care and stress relief, but also creativity and humor. And today is kind of like our sort of wrap up around creativity and humor. And I'm super excited that we've got some colleagues and friends of mine who work at museums and also do improv to help us with the session today. Before we have our guests introduce themselves officially and get started, I thought I could ask Avery from Mid-Atlantic Association to say hello and any words before we get started with our last session.
Hi everybody, sorry I'm a couple minutes late here, but I appreciate you all being here today. As Charity said, I'm Avery with the Mid-Atlantic Association of Museums, and I'm with you, Charity. I can't believe it's Friday, and it's been amazing to be on this journey with you if you've been partaking in this the whole week. So I'm really looking forward to today's presentation. So yeah, I'm really excited, and what a great finale.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Avery. I'm going to have Mookie Harris and Kelsey VanVoorst introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about them before they get going. I do want to say that these are two of my favorite funny people, I want to say, in Indianapolis area. I've known Mookie and Kelsey for quite a while and have had the opportunity to work with them in the past, and I hope that you all enjoy the session they've prepared for you today. All right, I'm going to stop sharing Mookie and Kelsey, and you can take over with your presentation.
Hey, thank you, Charity.
Hi.
How's everybody doing? I can't hear any of you.
No.
Welcome to our apartment. So yeah, as Charity said, we are both museum professionals. I work at the Children's Museum of Indianapolis.
And I work for Conner Prairie.
And we use a lot of improv theater background in our day-to-day jobs. And I think it's really going to be helpful for all of you as we head back to work soon.
Yeah, so not only with interacting with guests every day, but coming up with programming ideas, ways to interact with the guests and to make the experience that they have the best experience possible. Thinking on your feet and thinking, like you said, thinking outside the box is very helpful for the museum world.
So to get things started, I know you're all wrapping things up, and we've hit that point in the afternoon where I know the sun is coming in here and you get that little sleepy feeling, especially you're sitting at your desk. You might be a little more comfortable than usual when you're at work. So I want to do something to kind of jog your brain a little bit. Where you're at, grab a pen and paper. You can use a pencil, crayon, whatever you like. And I'm going to have you write some things down. On my prompt, I want you to list as many things that fit the category that I give you as possible. And you'll have, let's say, 60 seconds to do that. And all you're doing is just writing as many things as you can think of to fit that category. Are there any questions about that before we get started? I'll check the chat. Cool. Unless I see anything pop up, I'm going to assume you all get it. So get ready to write. And what you're going to be writing for the next 60 seconds, body parts with 3 letters. Go. I'm going to chat in the meantime.
I've got a timer going.
But I'm not going to try to distract you.
You said 60 seconds?
60 seconds.
Great.
I know they'll do fantastically. No fair Googling.
Yeah.
Got about 30 seconds left.
This is tricky.
You've got time. You got this.
You've got 15 seconds. 10, 9, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, writing utensils down. So take a quick moment, count up what you've got, and let me know in chat there, how many of you named 5? Well done. Good, 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 good. Well done. Anybody get 7?
7, perfect.
I can only come up with 7, that's fine. Anybody get 9? 8. Looks like 8 might be our max.
8, okay.
If you got more than 8, go ahead and type that in the chat there. All right.
No one.
Looks
All
like
right.
8. That's fine. You all did great.
Yeah,
Nice job. How many of you had arm? Sweet. And I won't actually make you type all this in. I'll bet you had eye.
Leg.
Leg, definitely. You might have had hip. There's some a little harder, like gum, things
Lip.
like that. Lip, yeah. Anybody go outside the box a little with slangy stuff like pit or bum?
Gam.
Yeah, those gams. Jaw, very nice. Okay. What if I told you that this same quiz test was given to 5th graders out in Washington State, and they averaged 15? I know. Don't feel too bad. How many of you put paw? Anybody put fin? Yeah, exactly. I didn't say human body parts, but we don't tend to think that way because we think there's a restriction. We think there's a rule. How many of you thought of something that's a little off color and then said, I'm not going to put that? That rule is within your own head. Did anybody put knee or foot? Both of those only use 3 letters. They double up. Heel, knee, foot. You could use all those things. Anybody put sternum? Medulla oblongata? My favorite Police album? No? That's okay too. It's kind of like one of those, which months have 28 days? All of them? Almost every body part has 3 letters in it.
Yeah.
And then some.
The challenge is to think of one that has less than 3.
That wasn't meant to be just a gotcha, but to show you that as we go back into work, after all this is over, anything that you already held on to as a rule, if you're holding on to it rigidly and treating it as sacred, it's not going to work out well for you. We have got to let previous rules go and think creatively about everything from here on out. Anything that worked before might still work, it might not. And so you've got to open up your brain to more things.
Yeah. So that brings us to another really good aspect that's going to help transitioning back into work, which is flexibility. We all have to be loosey-goosey with whatever's to come, partly because we don't really know what to expect when we go back. So another exercise, go ahead and write down, you can use the same piece of paper, 5 things that you did during this time when you've been inside during quarantine. 5 things that you've done that have surprised you.
Things that were new.
Yeah, you tried something out.
You made something. You learned something. They don't have to be huge.
No.
Accomplishments are accomplishments.
And as you finish writing down those things, these are for you. These are your own little personal successes. But think of when this all first started, when the government said, you got to stay inside, don't go outside, don't go to work. And it kind of threw everything into a state of chaos and flux. Immediately our brains thought, oh no, this is terrible. I can't do anything. I can't be as productive. I can't perform to the same level as I did when I was at work. But then the time in isolation could be turned into a gift. You've learned these things that are really cool and creative, and maybe you can take them back into work. So looking at something that is immediately thought of as a negative and trying to think of it in a positive way, and thinking of the things that have positively come out of this time inside is a really good way to look at something that's been bad and turning it into good. And that's flexibility.
Yeah, and Kelsey just used a word there that we use a lot in improv theater, which is thinking of things as a gift, no matter what they are. If you're improvising a play, let's say, because it really is that, it just doesn't have a script, and your scene partner throws something at you that you didn't expect, your brain might go, what am I supposed to do with that? It's the dumbest thing in the world. But you still have to use it. And if you think beyond that first negative thought, you go, oh, I could play off of it this way and give them something back to work with. Everything can be a gift, just the way you look at it.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
All right. So now I want you to do one more thing. I want you to write down something that you intended to do and you haven't quite done it. There have been a lot of things that are almost like New Year's resolutions where, day one, you were like, you know what? I'm buying a chin-up bar, and by the time this is done, I'm going to be able to do 50 chin-ups and hold myself there all day. And day 2, you were like, you know what? I think I'm going to binge a show instead.
Another thing you can throw into this is you tried something and thinking it would be a success, and it failed.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So for me, like during the first week, I really got into yoga with dumbbells, and I was doing great with it. Like, it was fantastic. And I told myself I was going to be doing that for the duration of all this. That didn't last 5 days. I failed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I wanted to try to go for a walk every day. We've got some nice trails around our apartment. Still at Connor Prairie, I walk 14,000 steps a day because we have 1,000 acres on our property. We walk all the time when I'm patrolling the space. So I still wanted to be able to get in those steps That didn't work out. It's a miracle if I can hit 10,000 steps.
It's true. Our apartment's not that big.
It's not that big.
So here's what I'd like for you to do. Share out whatever you just wrote down. Share that in the chat. What did you not accomplish that you wanted to? Go ahead.
No judgment here.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make some art? Clean the hallway closet?
Refinishing floors. Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, organizing. Wouldn't that be nice?
Look at all of those things coming in.
Spanish and guitar.
Oh, Marie Kondo.
Vintage beach crews are nice.
Yeah.
Letters, workout routine. Clean out the closet. Yeah. Those are all really great. And it's nice to set some goals, and you're not always going to hit them. Here's the thing. All of you just did a really wonderful thing. I asked you to share the things you had failed at, and you just did it. If I had pointed to one of you and said, I'm just going to pick Christina because that's the first name I saw. If I had said, Christina, share with all of us in the chat the thing you failed at. That'd be a tough ask. That's a lot, especially if we hadn't started by telling you the things that we failed at. What we did was we created a safe place to fail. We showed you, hey, we make mistakes too. We're trying to be creative, and we've made some mistakes. And then you knew that you were in an environment where when you shared the same kind of thing, we weren't going to judge you and tell you that you were worse because you had failed at something or not achieved something. As leaders, when you go back to work, it's great for you to have flexibility and think of new ideas and sometimes fail at them. But if you're not letting your staff make mistakes and comfortably own them, you're not going to succeed. You have to foster an environment where it's okay for people to feel like they can try new things and sometimes making mistakes.
Yeah, because mistakes are oftentimes where successes happen. You won't find anything successful without failing a couple times to get it right, or happy accidents sometimes create something really positive. So ensuring that your staff, whether they are internal staff, frontline staff, that they know that it's okay to fail, and they're not going to get fired, they're not going to lose their job or whatever. That's totally okay. Because like I said, this time is so uncertain that failing is bound to happen, and it will happen.
That's how we get where we get. Mm-hmm. Nobody discovered anything scientifically without trial and error. We wouldn't be talking to each other right now if somebody hadn't made a lot of errors first. Mm-hmm. Nobody got Zoom right on the first try. Right. They're still working on it.
It was probably terrible the first time around.
Exactly.
Cool. So failure is okay. Also, your guests, they're going to be cool with a lot of the things that you produce. You need to trust that your guests will be happy with what you produce, even if it's something completely different than what you intended that original idea to look like. If it ends up being something completely different, they don't know what that original idea in your brain looked like, that manifest of what it was supposed to be, and because of circumstances it ended up being something different. Your guests don't know that. So because your idea is something different, because your guest experience or your program is something completely different than what you normally produce, that's okay. That's okay, because they won't know of what it was supposed to be, and that it turned out different.
I'm going to call an audible. I'm going to move something around in our program here because I think it fits here very well. How many of you have seen Good Will Hunting? Cool. You've had time. It's 1997. What have you been doing? It was a great movie. It won awards. It won Best Screenplay. Got Robin Williams a supporting actor Academy Award. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck created that screenplay and shopped it around for a while. their original idea was nothing like what actually happened. Originally, their idea was for the Will Hunting character to be a genius that's discovered in a school, like he is, a janitor, and the government agents spot him and try to recruit him. And the rest of the movie is a thriller about him trying to elude the government agents who are trying to pull him in as a secret agent. It's very Bourne Identity.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah. And also kind of very Fugitive. Rob Reiner sat down and looked at the script and said, you don't need all that. Here's the story. The story is about the guy and his therapist. Stick to that. That's enough. And they looked at each other and went, oh, we could have just done that.
Yeah.
We didn't know that. When we went to see that movie, we had no idea. We didn't walk out going, well, that was sure not what they intended.
Because we didn't know. To tie it back to theater and improvisation, which is what Mookie and I both do. Improv, of course, thinking on your feet, there's no script. It's different than scripted theater. So let's say you go see a play and an actor totally bombs, forgets a line, falls off the stage. A piece of their costume falls off. The audience is going to notice, and they're going to know that something didn't happen. Now, if they're a good actor, they can make it work. Their scene partners can help fix it, but the audience will notice. In improv, if Mookie and I are doing a scene or a game or something, and one of the rules or the structure of the scene gets off kilter a little bit, chances are our audience isn't going to notice, and they're still going to be impressed with what we did, and say the things like, oh, I can never do what you did. We hear that all the time.
If I, as the actor, trip and fall, Kelsey can react immediately as if my character fell down and justify it, and it becomes part of what we were meaning to do, and nobody knows any different.
Knows. Don't tell them our secrets.
Exactly. For any of you who play music, it's the difference between being in a classical ensemble, like a chamber orchestra, and being in a jazz band. If you mess up over here, everybody knows, and nobody knows what to do with it if you mess up. Over here, they just turn it into something else. It's pretty easy. Please try to foster that kind of mindset, not only in yourself, but others around you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not just looking for like cheap applause or anything like that. How many of you feel like you got something out of the last few minutes here? Found any benefit to what we just did? Fantastic. I'm going to let you in on a secret. This is not what we usually do. Ordinarily, we would be in the same room with you. And when I asked a question like that, I'd be able to hear you say things back. We'd be probably within unsafe distance of each other. That's how we used to do things. Mm-hmm. When Charity asked us to do this, my very first thought was, oh my gosh, I don't know how to translate that into this kind of medium. But you all just proved that something can be made into something new that you didn't expect and still work. We had no idea that this is where we were going to be at this time this year. If you, in 2016, had thought about where you'd be in 2017, you'd probably have a pretty good idea. When you got there, you'd be like, yeah, that was pretty much what I thought. You, in 2019, thinking about where you'd be in 2020, wrong. Yeah.
It's all wrong.
Yeah, you had no idea we were going to be doing this. You right now thinking about where you're going to be in 2021, you have no idea. And that's okay. It doesn't mean it's going to be bad. It just means we don't know, and it's okay to not know.
Yeah, I see a question that's actually really, really great. But just to tie everything back with the idea of the gift that I talked about earlier, with this digital format of an improv workshop, and I know AAM is taking virtual registration right now. And I'm like, this is going to be so weird, going to a conference and seeing people, but they're still hundreds of miles away. It's still going to be a gift because you're going to be learning something and taking something away from that experience that you might not have been able to take away if it were to be in person, if it were to be the normal, the regular, because everything is a new normal and a new regular right now.
And I don't want to take up too much time. I don't know how we're pressing other people here. I don't want to do that. But the question that was just asked is a really good one. And it's, how do you deal with not having immediate reaction from an audience? Usually we're on a stage and everybody's right there. Even in this kind of environment, usually we're in a big circle and we can see everybody responding right back. It all comes down to trust, and that's a big tenet of improv, trusting your scene partner.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, it's trusting yourself. I know when I'm talking right now, I have to trust that all of you aren't sitting out there going,
yeah,
this guy.
Or have us on mute, or you're watching Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Yeah. I don't know if any of you have watched Stephen Colbert during all of this. It's awkward. It is. He's not in his environment, and he's a great improviser. But like sometimes you can even hear his wife off camera roll her eyes at some of the things he's saying, and he's just barreling through. He's doing the best he can. You've got to trust that when you do social media posts and webinars and things like that from your institutions out to a general public, especially live, that they're getting something out.
Yeah.
Their alternative was sitting at home and doing nothing. And you're giving them something more than they expected in their day.
Right. Another thing that you can utilize, of course, trust is huge, but if you are doing any sort of web format, a Zoom meeting, utilize that chat function, because when we ask questions, that chat went gangbusters.
Yeah.
So you know that people are paying attention and they're still engaged with what you're talking about, but it's all right there. It's all digital. I've been able to do a couple of improv shows virtually. It's been really weird, but really cool. And when we ask for suggestions, the people who are watching can type in their suggestions, and you know that, you know, they're still paying attention. We're still getting a reaction and engagement from the audience.
If anything, you'll get engagement from people who wouldn't usually speak up verbally,
Mm-hmm.
but they'll gladly sit at their keyboard in their pajamas in their house and respond to you.
Yeah.
It has been fantastic talking to all
Yeah,
of you.
thank you all. This, like we said, this has been different than what we normally do, but it has been really enlightening and really humbling and really fun.
Yeah.
Still. So thank you so much.
Take all of this with you. Have great success in the future, whatever it might look like.
Thank you, Kelsey and Mookie. That was wonderful. A lot of great points you made. I wanted to offer up if there are any other questions or comments that you would like to share in the chat, please do. I think we've got a little bit of time here for a conversation. And, you know, Kelsey and Mookie can offer up any thoughts they've had on your question, or if Avery or myself have heard what others have been doing, we're happy to share that too. I know that I particularly love the reminder to make sure that you're creating an environment where it's okay to fail. I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah.
Looks like we got a comment, unintended side observation. I loved watching the two of you present while standing.
Yeah, and now we're gonna sit down.
You're done with the presentation part.
Yeah.
You're more than welcome to sit now.
It's really funny how when we're in our house doing any sort of webinar or anything like that, we all tend to go for a seat. But if we had been invited to speak to you, we would have been standing in front of you, and probably all of you would have been standing too. And it really does like get your brain going a little more just to stand up. If you have any way at all to put your phone or your laptop up on something, whether it's a countertop or anything like that. And even just taking meetings or when you have to present, definitely recommend.
Yeah,
That's a great recommendation.
yeah. I hadn't really thought about that, Sarah. Thanks for pointing it out.
Yeah, yeah. It's nice to see Sarah Gross in here.
Lots of participants this afternoon who've been with us during the week. I'm curious if anybody has reflections, if they've been in other sessions and to cap off the week with this one, that you're now thinking differently about your next week. Like what's going to happen differently for you the week after Spring into Wellbeing Week, the week after this great session from Mookie and Kelsey.
Yeah, and real quick, while you're typing away anything, I believe that Charity has our email addresses to pass along any questions to. Like, even after today, please send any questions that you might have. Happy to answer them. Anything we can.
And Mookie and Kelsey, I know you currently work at museums too, but you do improv training outside of that work, right? So if people wanted to bring you in to train their staff, you'd be willing to help with that too?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
We got to do something with Charity a couple of years ago where we were talking to museum professionals about their frontline staff and the interactions with guests. And we were talking about how having that kind of a loose improv mindset really sets a tone from the moment people come in the door. And it helps them to feel more empowered too. We do a lot with not only creativity, but also getting people to work together a little bit better. Sometimes just trusting other people a little more, trusting yourself a little more, and communicating better. That's all stuff that improv is kind of built on. And so not going to say we're experts in it or anything like that, but it's something we use a lot, and we can teach new ways that you might have thought of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looks like we've gotten a few comments in response to my request. Christine said, focusing on gratitude has been important. The 3 things I have been able to do during this time is so important to shift my mindset.
Sarah Urizar, one of my biggest takeaways from your activities this week is how important it is to carve out some time for well-being every week.
Yeah.
Jeremy says, I have a department director who has provided us with articles on 10 skills of the future leader. This has definitely helped me in growing with those skills. I have a one-on-one with my supervisor that I can share some of this with him too. That's great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Bethany says, I'm going to try to start writing that book, but it's okay if I just take a nap instead. That's true. Totally okay.
Oh, we do have a question. Have you had any experience teaching museum docents improv exercises?
Yes. And sometimes, especially working for a history museum, you trick them because a lot of times they don't want to, they're not actors. They don't want to do theater. So you trick them kindly, but showing them that thinking on your feet and improvisation, and most importantly, something that we have been talking about at Conner Prairie is play, and how play works with interpretation and meeting your guest or where they're at rather than kind of just talking at them, has been very helpful. And the idea of sharing within improvisation, so sharing guest engagement, having it be more of a conversation, like I said, rather than just lecturing, has been very helpful, especially for those veteran interpreters. The minute you try to bring something new in, a lot of times people think, well, the way I've been doing it's been working for 35 years, so it's totally okay. Are you telling me that what I've been doing is wrong? Having them think at it from a different perspective of what you've been doing is great. I just want you to try thinking of it from this way, then this different perspective. It's been really successful, especially, like I said, for veteran interpreters.
Yeah, if you phrase it in a way that's more like, I'm not taking away your hammer. I'm just putting more tools than just that hammer in your toolbox, because that doesn't do everything.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Something that I find at work, I teach a workshop called Making Connections. That's basically just about making authentic connections between guests and a static collection. I work in a dinosaur fossil exhibit. People standing in front of a bunch of rocks that used to be dinosaur bones that used to be inside a living animal millions of years ago, that's a big disconnect from our life today to that living animal. But the more that I can do to make that relatable, to make that fossil, make people remember that was a living animal and it had a life and it dealt with the same things that animals do today and even us. That's kind of the job. And so my workshop deals with that. I try not to focus anything on it being improv theater related, especially improv comedy, because we've both been in that situation where we'll get hired by a company to do training workshops that revolve around improv. And the person who books it will introduce us and they'll be like, okay, get ready to laugh because we have got a couple of hilarious comedians who are going to come up here and teach you how to perform comedy. And you can just see people trying to get to the exit as quickly as possible. The less you can make people think that you're going to put them in an uncomfortable performing situation or anything like that, the better. It's not really about that. It's just using those skills.
I was just looking ahead at Sarah, who commented before, said that she really likes the think of everything as a gift mindset that you've embraced. And I just want to say that I keep imagining the first time I go to a restaurant again, for it to be as awkward as a video conference call where somebody's like, going, like everybody's going to be like, I don't know what to do next. What happens next? And I keep thinking of like, that's such a really nice way to put it in perspective, to think about that moment as like, well, this isn't awkward. It's just a gift, right? It's a chance for us to think, like, to wait for a minute and then go. I love that.
Yeah. How can I use it?
Yeah, how can I use this? Stephanie commented, it's been nice to participate in some things that aren't all about the virus and the unknowns of our field. This helped with some fun ideas, and we got to see other people in more fun ways. Talking about Spring into Wellbeing Week. Christine offered up, expanding beyond what is usual museum learning has been so cool. Yay, improv.
Hey.
Oh, somebody noticed your cat cameo, Avery.
Yeah. Hey, Oscar.
Yeah, I know. He came to visit. He resisted all week. I'm really proud of him.
Speaking of going with the flow.
Ours was visiting this entire time if we hadn't put her in that room with food.
Yep.
He tried the food trick. It just doesn't work with mine. He hears people and he wants to be seen.
Well,
Exactly.
If there aren't any other questions, I feel like, or are any final comments from Mookie and Kelsey or Avery on the topic today? I think we might be, may have covered everything.
Last thing I would say is everybody you work with has the potential to bring something new to your organization that can spell huge success. You don't know it yet, they don't know it yet, but creating an environment where everybody feels like they can share. And people are going to share 100 ideas and one of them is going to be great. But you can't get to that one unless you give people that opportunity to hear all that. So please have fun with all the mistakes too. Like, it's okay to laugh at horrible ideas.
Oh, yeah.
Kelsey, how about you? Any parting words of wisdom?
Going back to a little bit about how improv or improvisation can be a good way to learn is taking the fear out of it. A lot of people get very nervous when they're tasked with thinking on their feet and being spontaneous. But if you think about it, improv is just, you do it every day. It's talking. When you have a conversation with someone, you don't have a script of exactly what you're going to say. You are making up your conversation and your dialogue on the spot. That's improvisation. So taking away the fear of, like Mookie said, the performance, and just having it be more about conversation and human connection rather than performance is going to be really successful for staff who might be a little bit apprehensive about it.
Yeah.
That's great. Great advice. Well, Avery, any last thoughts as we sign off for Spring into Wellbeing Week officially?
No, I think I'm having a hard time saying goodbye to Spring into Wellbeing Week. I'm going to be honest. This has been like a great experience to get to know so many people, and especially our attendees that have been to so many of our activities already. I think this was the perfect way to cap it off and say, it's okay to fail.
Yeah.
Good lessons today. Thank you so much, both of you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I don't know if this shows up, but I wrote it down.
Well, we can see it, and we'll be sure to share it too. Thanks so much again for helping us close out the week. And I think you've set us in the mindset to think positively about the change that's yet to come. And so I think, thank you for those reminders. Very helpful. We all needed to hear it, and we all needed to see your, shining, wonderful faces too at the end of the week. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone who joined us today. Have a great weekend, and good luck with what you've got coming up in the next week and month and beyond.
You can do it.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.